Hey, I'm Kat, mom of 3 and founder of Ritual, the company setting a new standard in the supplement industry. When I was pregnant, I remember staring at my prenatal vitamins and thinking, what's in this stuff? All I found were vitamins high in heavy metals and lacking in the very essential nutrients we need. So we scoured the world for the best quality ingredients, backed by clinical studies, third-party tested, and Ritual's Essential Prenatal was born. Join our family of skeptics with 40% off your first month when you visit ritual.com/podcast.
The Podcast Playground! Hooray!
Hey, it's Jeff Zito. Welcome to another episode of Celebrity Jobber. You just might not know who this is, but you definitely have heard the voice because he is one of the world's leading voiceover artists. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to tell you about some of the really, really huge things that he has coming up, but it's a really interesting story. So you heard him all over the place, all over TV, all over the movies. He'll tell us exactly what. But he's also a social media influencer / kind of a big deal. He's got like over 1.5 million subscribers on YouTube with his series Blind Surfer. Yeah, you guessed it. The guy's a voiceover artist. He's got to read copy. Is he blind? You got to be kidding me. This is really interesting. Our guest this week on Celebrity Jobber, voiceover actor Pete Gustin. So you're in San Diego, as Ron Burgundy would say?
Whale's vagina. That's what I think it translates into.
How long have you been out there?
I moved here. I'm going to have to do math. I moved here in 2016, so it's been six years and a handful of months.
Okay, and you moved from where?
Boston.
Oh, that's a big lifestyle change, huh?
Yeah, just a little skip across the entire country.
So Pete is a world-renowned voiceover artist, and you hear him everywhere. Where's your biggest? Where would people hear you the most?
I think I'm on the Fox networks quite a bit. I do a couple shows on Fox. I do Fox News. You can also hear me on ABC, CBS, some stuff on NBC, Hulu, Cartoon Network, Comedy Central, ESPN. I do some radio every once in a while.
Yeah, I do hear you. I do hear you on the radio every once in a while.
So stations here and there.
So does anybody ever make you, like when they meet you and they find out that you're a voiceover guy, do they ever make you, like do a movie trailer or like do something? Let me hear you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all say, do the voice. Do
you?
And the voice, the movie trailer, especially, because I do a lot of trailers. I've been fortunate enough to win the award for Outstanding Movie Trailer Voiceover of the Year twice now.
Wow.
And, people are like, oh, do that voice. And I'm a surfer now, and I'm always either by or on the ocean. And I'm sitting out there in the lineup, and it's noisy, and the waves are crashing, and it's noise. And they're like, do the rated R thing. And we're like 30 feet apart, and I'm like, rated R. Like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's not you don't yell it.
Right. So you started off in radio, and this is where you've landed into the world of voiceovers.
Yep.
And it's a pretty incredible story because, if you know Pete, I've known you for about probably 4 or 5 years now myself. I didn't know a pretty important fact about you. And you might not think that this is that important, but we'll explain momentarily. You'll figure it out. But Pete is actually, you're blind.
Correct.
And how long have you been blind, Pete?
I've been suffering from a degenerative eyesight disorder almost my entire life. We noticed it when I was about 8, and my parents just thought I needed glasses. But doctors figured out shortly thereafter, as the glasses didn't do anything, that there was something else going on. And I was told when I was 8 that I'd have my eyesight deteriorate until I was about 17, and it should stop there. And I got to 17, I was never able to drive a car. I had to start doing books on tape in high school because I couldn't read print anymore. And I got to 17, I was like, all right, this this isn't horrible. Like, it's not great, but it's not horrible. But then it kept getting worse and worse. And the doctors told me, like, well, it'll definitely stop deteriorating by 27. And then 27 came, and 28, 29, 30 came. I'm like, no, this is getting worse. And,
Wow.
I can laugh about it now, just not because it's funny, but just how wrong they were.
Right.
That they just thought it was going to be a little degradation, but eventually it ended up taking everything but my light perception away. And that happened, I'd say, about 3 or 4 years ago.
So if me and you were standing in a room together, what would you be able to make out? Would it be, it's not completely dark. You'll be able to see something, right?
Not really. At this point, if you moved, my eyesight would pick up a little bit of motion, kind of combined with it's tricky. Like, I had he passed recently, but I had a dog. It was a Doberman, and that bastard, he knew that I needed some sound.
Right.
So when he'd steal something from me, he'd be so quiet.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I had no idea. And I did start to put together on my own. I'm like, I feel like I need a little motion and some sound to put it together. But if I were to walk into a room and you were standing in the middle of it, I wouldn't pick up on it.
So here's the big question. So Pete is blind and a voiceover actor. So what happens is usually places, the big companies or the radio stations will send him copy to read. Well, how the hell do you do that, Pete?
That's the same question the very first agent I ever spoke to asked of me. I thought I was just kind of, I had this voice. It came the moment I hit puberty. I went from, hi, my name is Pete. Hi, my name is Pete. Like overnight. And everybody was like, oh, you're going to do radio. You should be a radio guy. And I didn't, at the time, I was like 13. And I didn't know voiceovers was a profession. I was thinking I'll just go straight to radio. And I went to college. I went to Boston University, but the whole time I had it in the back of my mind, like, I'm going to be a voiceover guy. And I was working with the limited amount of eyesight I had. I used to go to auditions ahead of time, and I'd take a magnifying glass with me, like I was Inspector Clouseau or something. I'd go into the bathroom with the script, and I'd read it with a magnifier, kind of word by word, sentence by sentence, and then kind of just commit it to memory.
In the beginning, when you first started voiceovers, did you keep your blindness a secret?
Yeah, I didn't tell anybody. I used to try and memorize scripts ahead of time, and I'd go in and pretend that I was reading them. And I just didn't want anybody worrying about my disability, how I was going to get the job done. I just wanted them to focus on the quality of the read as opposed to asking a million questions. And when I graduated college and I got my degree and I was going to go out into the working world, my idea of the working world was to go to an agency in New York and try and see if I could get signed to become a voice actor. And the agent at the time listened to my demo. He liked it, but then he literally laughed in my face. He's like, no one's going to want to work with a blind voice actor.
Wow.
And it was devastating. I mean, just straight up devastating, because that's what I thought from the time I was, 14 till 21, I thought I was going to do. And it was crushing. And, in this day and age, people are like, well, you should have sued him, American Disabilities Act, and da-da-da. But in a lot of retrospect, I mean, he really did crush my soul for a number of years, but he was speaking the truth in that the way I was doing voiceovers, reading little chunks of copy, memorizing it, committing it to memory, and then reciting it back. I mean, you can't make a living that way. I was under some delusion that every piece of copy I read was going to pay me like $1,000.
Right.
Read one every other day and make a living at it. I didn't really understand what a volume business voiceovers is. I mean, these days I read between 50 and 100 pieces of copy every day.
Wow.
And that is on the higher end of what most voice actors do, but that's what I do. And that wasn't a possibility for me back then. I didn't have the vision to read the copy, and the technology that I eventually ended up using hadn't been developed yet. So I couldn't get started in my career until some things in the world changed.
So tell me about this technology that you use, because I find it fascinating, because I work with you, on a daily basis. and I send you stuff for you to read, and it comes back to me within seconds. Now, granted, I got to tell you, people, this is how this works. You send the copy over to the voiceover guy. They'll get it whenever they get it. They'll read it whenever they read it. Usually it takes about, a half a day to turn it around. It takes Pete about 30 seconds from the time I hit the send button. He's already sent it back. So how the hell do you do it that fast?
I have taught myself a system that I call an ear prompter, and it was really just kind of a matter of I had to think outside the box. Like, I can't see. What can I still do? And of course, there's Braille. And I actually started to learn Braille, and I took Braille classes for about 6 months. And it is like a torturously slow procedure. Like, I learned the letters A, B, C, D, and E after 6 months. And I finally asked the woman, I was like, will I ever be able to read Braille at the speed I need to speak at? And she's like, well, maybe after 10 years of practice or so, maybe. I was like, what?
Oh, man.
That's not going to work for me. So then I immediately started thinking, what other senses do I have? I'm like, well, I can't taste any of my copy. What about hearing? And at that time, text-to-speech technology had started to come out. There was a flip phone called I think it was called the Chocolate or the Envy or something like that. And when you got a text, if you hit the pound button on it, it would read it to you. What are you guys doing tonight? We're going to go out to the bar. And I realized that I was able to, someone could write that. Then I could press that little button and I could hear it. And with some practice, I figured maybe I could recite it back. So it took me about a year of going insane. I mean, just listening to a robot voice in your head that you're not used to starts to drive you totally bonkers. But a solid year of practice, and then into the second year, I was able to start hearing that robot voice. And the way that other people would see words on a page and recite it back, I began to see those words in my mind thanks to what I was hearing and then recite it back.
Now, wouldn't that be difficult, like punctuation wise, and just how, when you're hearing Siri talk, she's not talking, that's how she talks. So she doesn't have any inflection on certain words. And how do you get by with doing that? Because it's effortless. I mean, you're effortlessly doing this.
Well, when I very first started, I bought, what was it called? Like I paid $300 for some human voice, human trademark, and it was supposed to sound as realistic as possible. So I'd hit go, and the voice would be like, "You're listening to Zito on 98.7 The Shark." Throw the point in there.
Right.
And so then my read would be like, "You're listening to Zito." Like, and I was following the stupid inflection of the dumb voice that was in my ear. So what I use now is basically like the ColecoVision of voices. I carry this packet, speaking in computer terms, a packet patch around from computer to computer, and it's this old, horrible voice that will literally just say, "You're listening to Zito on 98.7 The Shark," and it's so bad that I can't possibly follow its inflection. I just take it as input. Like, these are the words I need to say,
right,
and I have to figure out how to say them.
Wow. Could you get like, I don't know, like an Al Pacino voice to do it for you? I wish I could do a good Al Pacino impression. All I got is hoo-ah, but that was terrible. I apologize about that, folks. But is there like celebrity voices that you can get to do that kind of stuff? Like a GPS?
I do roll with just that horrible voice, though, because I just wanted it to be, I needed to focus on what I was doing. So I have that voice rolling in one ear. I usually throw it in my left ear. And then I don't wear headphones over the other ear so I can hear myself speaking. So I'm self-critiquing and performing as I'm listening to the thing come through. And these days I'm so well practiced at it. I mean, you can send me 2 pages of copy, and if it's 4 30-second promos, I'll read it in 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
That's unbelievable.
I read in real time.
So Pete, we know that you started in radio. Now you're a big, rich voiceover actor living in San Diego on the beach. But what was your first job? Do you remember your first job?
My first job was, I was a junior sailing instructor, if that counts.
Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah. You got paid for it, right?
Yeah, I did. I got minimum wage in Massachusetts. It was probably like $5.25 at the time.
So you were a sailing instructor.
Yeah, I was a competitive sailor when I was younger.
Really?
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
My cousins were both. I didn't have any brothers. I had two older cousins, and they were competitive sailors. And one of them went to Harvard and ended up on the Harvard sailing team, and the other one went to MIT, and he went to the MIT sailing team. And to this day, my older cousin Jim is a world-class sailor. He travels the whole world. I mean, Japan, Australia, South America. He travels and competes and does really well. And those guys were kind of my role models. So I got into sailing as a little guy.
Wow.
9 or 10 years old is when I got in my first boat.
So what was your big break, do you think? I mean, I would assume radio wasn't your big break, but did you get like a big account? Was it maybe that started off your voiceover career to where you can look back and say, it probably was this that was my big break, and from that maybe you started getting a lot of action from a lot of other clients?
Yeah, there were two that I remember, and they were years apart. But voiceovers is, I mean, it's a skill job. You can't suck at it. You got to be good. But it's also kind of a marketing. I mean, I remember when I was a production director at the radio station, then I'd be like, "Ooh, this guy's the voice of NBC Sports." Like you kind of get excited that, "Ooh, and this guy does movie trailers."
Right.
And so the bigger things you have on your resume, the cooler you seem. And I remember it was 2007, and the New England Patriots had their perfect season going.
Almost
and
perfect.
Going into the Super Bowl against the Giants.
Right.
And Reebok was local to Massachusetts, and the head of the entire division of marketing and media buys and everything was a fan of the radio station that I worked at, and they had this huge campaign ready to go called Perfectville, and it was for the Patriots if they won to have this whole perfect community. And we recorded a bunch of spots that ran in the first quarter of the Super Bowl, and then they were going to blow out a million others if the Patriots won. They lost, but I got the campaign simply because the guy liked the radio station that I was on. He's just like, "Oh, I like that voice. Let me call him." And he hired me. And even though I didn't get to do all the commercials afterwards, I was still Pete Gustin, voice of Reebok Super Bowl commercial, which is a huge thing to stick on your resume.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine so. So do you ever think about if it wasn't for voiceovers, if you weren't living in San Diego on the beach and living the life that you live, what you would be doing today?
I have constant nightmares about that because as a blind guy, it's not like, I mean, I know a lot of people that, radio is a difficult business. If you got a job in radio these days, like, congratulations. Like, you didn't get downsized along with everybody else. It is scary the way the industry is. And I watch a lot of people, they get out and they go into, I'm going to be in real estate or, they got to go learn another skill. Like, I can't even be like a cash register guy at CVS. Like, blind, there's just not a lot of options for me. I remember when I was younger and I was a teenager and I was thinking, what can I do as a blind adult to make a living? And I actually applied for this job and got shut down. I wanted to be a grave digger. I'm like, someone could line me up, hand me a shovel and tell. I was just trying to think of something I could do, and I'd be outside, fresh air. Meanwhile, I sit in a soundproof box by myself all day, every day, so that went sideways. But that's what I was originally thinking. And so I applied to be a grave digger between my senior year of high school and my freshman year of college. And the stupid town I lived in bought a machine that did it, so there was no grave digger job available.
Wow. Well, I'm really happy that you're not digging graves these days. I mean, that's a big plus for you and me both. It
worked out.
It worked out. Now, tell us a little bit about you're kind of a big deal on the social media. You've got you're kind of a big deal. Another Ron Burgundy reference. You are the blind surfer. You have a lot of videos up on YouTube, and you're an accomplished surfer, and you've been surfing for how long since you moved to San Diego?
Yeah, probably just clocking over 5 years of being out on the water now. I picked it up pretty late in life. Being a Boston guy, I wasn't really surfing was not on the radar at that point. But yeah, I kind of came out here, and again, as my vision was fading, I used to play a lot of sports. I played football in high school. I used to play Frisbee with my friends, basketball, tennis, try some golf here and there. But as my eyesight crapped out, I'm like, what what is left? What sport can a blind guy do? And everybody in San Diego, I mean, everybody out here surfs. Like, it's just what everybody does. And I was like, well, at least no one's throwing a ball at me and I don't have to catch anything. Maybe. So I kind of tried to take it up. And then with the same tenacity that I seem to approach everything, or desperation, however you want to look at it, like I was desperate to try and find some sport I could still do, I stuck with it and eventually kind of taught myself how to surf.
Now, when did you get the idea to start documenting your surfing and blindsurfer.com? When did all this happen?
I was highly embarrassed of being blind and surfing in the beginning. I used to wear a shirt, still do, that says Blind Surfer on it, and that was for the safety of the people on the water. And I used to be really ashamed to walk up and down the beach with that. I mean, it's embarrassing. Like, I got a disability, and now I got the disability printed on my chest. Like,
right.
Kind of not cool. And so I'd put it on literally right as I'd start paddling out, again, just for the safety of the people that were out in the water with me. They'd be like, okay, this guy can't see, let's stay out of his way. And it was a simple chance encounter with a high school sophomore who was doing a project for her video class in the town I live in. And she's like, that's really cool that you surf blind. Like, that's inspirational. I was like, really? I hadn't really thought about it from anybody else's perspective. I was just thinking, guy who lost his eyesight trying to figure some way to stay active. I was thinking of it very, very internally. But she made a really nice story about it. And then people from the local Fox affiliate, Fox 5 San Diego, somehow saw the piece that she made, and they made another piece. And it ended up being the passing comments of a world-class surfer by the name of Taylor Knox from the Momentum Generation movie. He's like, I saw your piece on Fox 5. He's like, it's really inspirational what you do, man. You make me want to work harder in my life. And I was like, really? I was just like blown away that a pro surfer watching me at the time suck at surfing somehow inspired him. And I had a talk with my best friend, who's also my surf coach now, and my fiance, and the three of us talked about it, and we're like, maybe this is a story worth trying to share.
And you've been doing it for how long now? Because you got a ton of videos up there.
Yeah, we did it for 2 years, basically with no success at all. And I was just kind of doing it it was a small group. We had about 13,000 followers, and, a fair amount of people would write and say, hey, this is inspirational. You've changed my life. I work harder. Hey, if you can surf blind, I can, do all sorts of things. And it was a small group of people that were following, and that was enough for me, and I was happy with that. We went from 11,000 followers after the first year to maybe 13 or 14. It was very, very slow growth. And then I kind of changed up the style of the videos a little bit, started to let people in a little bit more. I started doing short form videos, got a little more personal with the story, and whoa, did it blow up.
Yeah, man.
From 13,000 followers to 1 million in the course of like 90 days.
Wow. Think. That's incredible, man.
And now I think I'm going to be at 1.7 million shortly in the next couple days or so.
That's awesome, man. It's a great story. And again, Pete's voice, anybody listening out there right now, you will, and if you watch TV or you listen to the radio or watch, movie trailers, you know Pete, you know his voice. You don't know what he looks like probably, but I have a feeling that's going to change. People are going to go to blindsurfer.com and check out your videos. But it's pretty amazing. I'll be driving along, and I'll hear you, do some kind of ED commercial. I think you do don't you do an ED commercial?
I did. I've gotten booked on the Jimmy Kimmel Show 3 different times, and all 3 of them were for ED parodies. I'm like, wait, what am I supposed to be taking away from this here?
I swear I heard you on an ED commercial, and I wanted to call you one day, but it was like 9:30 at night. I was listening to the radio, doing an errand or something, and all of a sudden I hear Pete doing some, and I knew it was you because you got a very distinctive voice. So
I'm sure I've done one at some point or another with all the stuff that I do, but I kind of don't put that on the highlight reel.
Yeah, right. That's not on the resume, you're saying? Wow.
Are you floppy? Do you help not being floppy?
Pete, you are inspirational, man, because it's you take these things for granted, every day. And I talk to you, and you're upbeat, you're positive. You don't have the easiest time, but you make it work, man, and you're doing unbelievable, and just happy for you. I think it's a great story, and I'm really, again, glad that you're not a gravedigger, because that was something I didn't expect to hear, that was maybe a backup plan for a minute.
I mean, there are I kind of like working alone. I didn't think anybody else had to be out there with me at the time. I really enjoyed being out in the fresh air, and I don't know. There was something. Not the death part. I didn't have any weird I want to see dead bodies. There was none. I just want to make the hole and get the heck out of there.
Right.
Something about just being outside working. I didn't want to work on a landscaping crew with a bunch of dudes yelling at me all the time.
Right.
No, I think this job's probably better.
I think this job is better, and you probably you can do it forever. I mean, a lot of these guys, these voice actors they've been doing it for a long time, and
oh, yeah.
I bet your voice is going to get better as you get older and you drink more, and maybe you start smoking cigars. Maybe get that sound.
Burn richer.
Yeah, man. Pete Gustin, he is a voiceover artist extraordinaire, and you hear him all the time. Blindsurfer.com. And where else are you, Pete?
I guess if you go to YouTube, you can just type in Blind Surfer, and you'll find all sorts of videos that take you right to the homepage as well.
Pete, great talking to you. I know you got to jump on and you got to do a big session here coming up in the next few minutes, right?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'll just shut up, let you go, make some money. And I'm going to actually be in San Diego next year. So I'm going to try to hook up with you when I'm there.
I'm going to force you to come surfing with me.
I will. I used to surf back when I was a youngster, and I still have the board. But, as an old timer and in Florida now, 47 years old, I've taken up paddle boarding, stand-up paddle boarding.
That is fun.
It is fun, but, it's definitely not like dropping in on a, 6-foot wave. But, you do what you can. But anyway, I'll catch up with you soon, Pete, and thanks so much. I really appreciate it, man.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, buddy. Not sure if I was supposed to talk about this or not, but I just looked it up online. But Pete was doing a session for Disney, and I would assume that means Optimus Prime. I was kind of afraid to ask him about Optimus Prime, but again, now that I looked it up and found out that it's all over the internet that Pete is now the voice of Optimus Prime for Disney's Transformer movies coming out, I don't feel too bad about letting the cat out the bag, but how about that? Huge voiceover artist. He's blind with this disability. I really appreciated how he told people when he wore the shirt, Blind Surfer, walking up and down the beach. He's like, man, I was embarrassed of that. He's like showing himself. And I get it. Of course, I'm embarrassed about a lot of things about me. So obviously, people are insecure about certain things, and, you're broadcasting it to the whole world. And yeah, man. So I really could appreciate Pete saying that. But obviously, he's got absolutely nothing to be embarrassed about. I mean, the guy is killing it. I mean, I don't want to sound like one of those people that say living your best life, but Pete Gustin is the definition of living his best life. And he doesn't have it as easy as some other people might have it. I don't know about you. I feel a little lazy and a little bit like a piece of crap. Knowing what Pete has to go through every day, and knowing that, I have a little bit of an advantage over him, or maybe a lot of bit of an advantage. Eyesight's kind of a big deal, but it doesn't matter because he does it. He's crushing it. The voice of Optimus Prime, the Disney movie, the Transformers, Fox News, this whole new thing with the Blind Surfer and blindsurfer.com. 1.7 million subscribers on YouTube. What's a blind guy gonna do? How about being a grave digger? That's what he thought about doing, being a grave digger. Hey, to each his own. Well, that'll wrap things up for this week. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe, and if you could, leave a review or leave a comment over on Apple Podcast. And next week, Black Friday, a new episode of Celebrity Jobber. I'm Jeff Zito. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.